Tonight, several breaking stories as we come on the air. The volatile day on Wall Street. President Trump is asked late today, will he pause his sweeping tariffs, and what he said. Also tonight, more than 20 dead. Severe storms hit multiple states. You'll see more than 60 people rescued from a hotel by boat. And the video right here tonight, the extinct wolf that scientists now say they've brought back, not seen in 10,000 years. First tonight, the Dow plunging 1,700 points in the opening minutes today, then the wild swings today. The false social media post suggesting President Trump would pause his tariffs, giving the markets false hope. The Dow then dropping again, and tonight our Mary Bruce asking the president if he's considering that pause for his tariffs, how he answers. You'll also hear from American families and farmers tonight concerned, and what J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon is now saying about the tariffs and what they'll do to inflation in the U.S., and the chances of recession here. Whit Johnson on Wall Street. The deadly storms across multiple states, at least 24 dead. More than 150 reported tornadoes. The floods, property swept away. And you'll see the rescues tonight by boat. 60 people trapped in a hotel. Ginger Z has the forecast. Tonight, the plane going off the runway, crashing into the water while trying to land. A second child has now died from the measles. More than 600 cases in the U.S., nearly 500 in Texas alone. And tonight, HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a vaccine skeptic, has now traveled to Texas for one of the funerals. What he's saying about the vaccine now. Tonight, the news on Iran, what President Trump revealed today about the U.S. and Iran. The horrific accident on the assembly line. An American auto worker is killed, pinned by a machine. The remarkable scientific breakthrough tonight. 13,000 years after the last dire wolf walked the earth, scientists now say they've brought them back. And Matt Gutman has the video tonight. This evening, America Strong, the never-before-seen home videos of Paul Newman and his children. Tonight, his daughter is right here, and what she's hoping you'll do involving the charity her father started. And remembering the Hollywood star who brought Dennis the Menace to life.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It is great to start another week with all of you at home. We do begin tonight with the wild swings on Wall Street. The Dow with the biggest one-day point swing ever, dropping more than 1,700 points in the opening minutes, and then coming back more than 2,500 points for a time, based in part on a false social media post saying the president would pause his sweeping tariffs. When the White House knocked that down, the Dow then dropping again. The dramatic swings today, the Dow closing down in the end 349 points, the S&P 500 closing down 11 points, the NASDAQ inching up 15 points. In the Oval Office late today, our Mary Bruce asking the president if he is in fact considering a pause for its tariffs, and how he answered right here. He did indicate the U.S. is now actively engaged in trade negotiations with Japan, but as you know, there are many more countries on this list. And when it comes to China, President Trump appearing willing to escalate the trade war tonight, now threatening China. China had responded to President Trump's 34% tariff with the same number, a 34% tariff on U.S. goods coming into China. Now the president says China has until tomorrow to remove their additional tariff, or he'll add another 50% in tariffs himself. Tonight, right here, you will hear from American families and farmers concerned about all this, and what J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon is now saying about the tariffs and inflation here in the U.S. and the chance of a recession here in this country. ABC's Whit Johnson leading us off tonight. He's on Wall Street.
Tonight, another wild day on Wall Street. The Dow with its largest point swing ever in one day, from 1,700 points down, then swinging up more than 2,500 points, and then back, ending the day down nearly 350 points. All of this driven by President Trump's tariffs and growing uncertainty about whether there could be any off-ramp. Investors and millions of nervous Americans over higher prices and shrinking 401ks, waiting to hear if President Trump would pause or rethink the strategy. Our Mary Bruce asking the president.
Your reaction to the markets today, and would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that. We have many countries that are coming to negotiate deals with us, and they're going to be fair deals.
So far, the White House only talking about Japan engaged in any kind of active negotiation. The president posting on social media he spoke with Japan and then brought it up in the Oval Office as progress.
And I said, one thing, you're going to have to open up your country because we sold no cars, like 0 cars in Japan. And they sold millions of cars into our country.
But Japan is just one of many countries slapped with steep tariffs by the president. And tonight, President Trump appears to be willing to escalate this trade war with China. Trump hitting China with an additional 34% tariff. And then China retaliating with 34% tariffs of their own. President Trump tonight says China has until tomorrow. If China does not withdraw that tariff, the U.S. will increase tariffs on China by another 50%, bringing the tariffs on China effectively to more than 100%. The market hanging on the president's every word. This is a snapshot of the Dow since President Trump's inauguration, after dropping more than 15% since its record high, putting it into correction territory. Today, the Dow with dramatic swings when trading began, dropping significantly, then sharply rising after a false post on social media gave investors hope that the president was considering a 90-day pause, only to sink again when the White House said the post was not true. And tonight, a hedge fund billionaire and vocal Trump backer during the election now saying this isn't what we voted for. Hedge fund manager Bill Ackman is urging the president to call a timeout, warning, "We are heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter, and we should start hunkering down, make cooler heads prevail." And J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon warning in his annual letter to shareholders, the recent tariffs will likely increase inflation and are causing many to consider a greater probability of a recession, his firm already raising the risk of recession to 60%.
If this continues on the path it is, without any pause or any kind of a negotiation, we are going to see this, and the implications could be major.
Americans like retired auto worker Jim Peterson from Michigan worried about their 401ks.
There's nothing I can do. I'm just watching it crater, crash. It's very alarming.
And now some Republicans in Congress feeling the pressure back home, looking to rein in the president's tariff authority. 7 Republican senators, including the former Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, signing on to a bipartisan bill that would require the president to notify Congress of new tariffs that Congress would need to approve within 60 days. A similar bill in the House, brought by moderate Nebraska Republican Don Bacon, neither likely to pass, and President Trump saying he would veto it. From farm country to Main Street, Americans on edge. Tony Thompson is a 4th-generation farmer in Iowa.
Putting tariffs on that, like when margins are already tight, we're increasing the stress on us as growers.
Louise and Vance Emke have been farming in western Kansas for over 50 years.
Where are we going? Everybody's asking that. Where are we going?
And David, tonight the Treasury Secretary is saying that up to 70 countries have approached the Trump administration eager to discuss these tariffs, but says President Trump wants to achieve maximum negotiating status, and then he may be willing to talk. David?
Whit Johnson leading us off from Wall Street again tonight. Whit, thank you. We turn next year tonight to the deadly storms across multiple states. At least 24 people dead, including a father and son taking shelter under a tree. The system's spawning more than 150 reported tornadoes, severe storms bringing dangerous flooding. Today, 60 people rescued from a hotel surrounded by water by boat. Ginger Z has the forecast, and Alex Perez from Kentucky tonight.
Tonight, after more than 150 reported tornadoes and more than 15 inches of rain in some spots, a slow-motion disaster playing out in the heartland. First responders in Louisville using front-end loaders and boats to rescue more than 60 people trapped in a hotel this morning.
Don't drive through water. If you're told to evacuate, evacuate.
Watch as the Kentucky River carries this dock right into the Capitol Avenue Bridge in Frankfort. Swollen rivers engulfing neighborhoods. James Cornish evacuated his dad and other family members from Frankfurt's Bell Point neighborhood Sunday.
It just happened, it just came up so quick.
Overnight, fire crews in Columbus, Indiana, rescuing a dozen from floodwaters there. In the town of Hardy in northeast Arkansas, the devastating aftermath: homes knocked from their foundations, vehicles trashed, and roads washed away. The death toll rising throughout the region. At the Bull Creek Golf Course in Midland, Georgia, a father and son were killed by a falling tree they had taken shelter under during the storm. 2 of the more than 20 deaths reported from this system.
And David, still so many roads here completely underwater. The river here has crested and evacuation orders have been lifted, but the cleanup is only just beginning. David?
What a remarkable scene there behind you. Alex, thank you. Let's get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z with the forecast tonight for us. Hi, Ginger.
Hi, David. You know, that front is still with us, day 5 or 6 now, and it is just a couple hours until we get rid of it. But until then, a damaging wind threat in North Carolina, Wilmington, Fayetteville, and Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. Once that's passed, just seeing what it left in its wake, more than 15.5 inches. Some of those parts of western Kentucky had their wettest 4-day periods on record. And this is what happens days after. The rivers still rise in some places. That's why you see all the red on the map from southern Indiana right down into Mississippi and Louisiana. Those are all the creeks and rivers that are still on the way up, or at least have crested. And behind this, extremely cold, sub-freezing here, New York City, Wednesday morning. David.
Ginger, thank you. We'll see you first thing in the morning on GMA. We turned out of the plane trying to make a landing in Oregon, going off the runway and then crashing into the water. The passengers rescued. Here's Trevor Ault tonight.
Tonight, a dangerous landing in Oregon, sending a plane skidding off the runway into the water, injuring everyone on board.
Report as a single private jet that's crashed, 5 passengers on. There is injuries.
It happened just before sunrise. The small aircraft seen here rolling 100 feet past the runway, abruptly dropping out of sight into Coos Bay.
The pilot was able to take evasive action to avoid a critically important air navigational tool at the end of the runway.
The air traffic controller puzzled when he couldn't spot the plane.
I did hear him earlier on the radio checking in for the ILS, but I don't see him on the ramp at all.
The fire department says they were alerted by an automated crash notification sent from the iPhone of a person on board. Rescue workers pulling passengers to safety on a boat.
David, it's not yet clear what caused this plane to skid off the runway. The FAA and NTSB are now investigating.
David, Trevor Ault reporting tonight. Trevor, thank you. We turn next this evening to the measles outbreak here in the U.S. A second child has now died from the measles. Tonight, Health and Human Services Secretary RFK Jr. has traveled to Texas for the funeral. Kennedy is a longtime vaccine skeptic, and what he's saying now about the measles vaccine. ABC's Mireya Villarreal from Texas.
With cases of the measles surging, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. traveling to Texas for the funeral of 8-year-old Daisy Hildebrand, the second unvaccinated child to die of the measles during the state's worst outbreak in 30 years. Vaccine experts say it's avoidable.
Vaccination is how we could have protected our children so that we would not have had the first 2 childhood deaths.
In Texas, Kennedy, a longtime vaccine skeptic who has faced criticism for downplaying the risk of measles, appeared to offer support for the vaccine, saying the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. But Kennedy himself previously promoted supplements with vitamin A to prevent and treat measles.
Also, cod liver oil, which has high concentrations of vitamin A and vitamin D.
Health officials warn vitamin A does not prevent measles after a handful of hospitalized children showed toxic levels.
Dosages of vitamin A should be done, under the care of a physician. This is not something where people should be going to, the local pharmacy and running and picking up vitamin A to give to their children.
In Lubbock, the owner of this daycare is scrambling to stop the spread and wants quicker testing.
We need to know as soon as possible that these kids are positive or negative.
David, the CDC is now sending a second team here to Lubbock to help with that measles response. And tonight, another headline from Kennedy and the EPA. They right now are saying they are reviewing the science behind fluoride in the public water system, signaling the possibility of some major change across the country in the near future. David?
Mireya Villarreal in Texas for us tonight. Mireya, thank you. We turn now to that remarkable scientific breakthrough. 13,000 years after the last dire wolf walked the earth, scientists say they've now brought them back. Here's our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, with the video tonight.
Tonight, a howl 13,000 years in the making. In a first for science, biotech company Colossal Biosciences says it brought the extinct direwolf back to life. A species that hasn't walked the earth since the Stone Age.
The direwolf is the first de-extinct species.
Well known from HBO's hit show Game of Thrones, ABC News given exclusive access into Colossal's lab in Dallas, where scientists are using genes from gray wolves to create dire wolves.
We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves, and we've edited those cells at multiple places in its DNA sequence to contain the dire wolf version of the DNA. That animal looks like a dire wolf, it will behave like a dire wolf, and it is a dire wolf.
Now, 7 months old, dire wolves Romulus and Remus eating well and getting bigger every day.
And David, the company tells us they're not stopping there. They plan to have woolly mammoths roaming the earth again by 2028. But critics argue that this de-extinction could harm fragile ecosystems. David.
Yeah, the images are really something, Matt. Thank you. Now to the U.S. and Iran. Tonight, President Trump saying the U.S. will hold direct talks with Iran involving its nuclear program. The talks to be held this Saturday. The two countries have had no direct talks since Donald Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal with Iran back in 2018. Tonight, President Trump saying if the talks aren't successful with Iran, quote, I think Iran is going to be in great danger. When we come back here tonight, we have learned of a horrific accident on the assembly line. An American auto worker is killed, and how this happened in a moment. Also tonight, we remember the actor behind Dennis the Menace. And look at the images tonight, the never-before-seen home videos of Paul Newman and his children. Well, tonight, his daughter joins us right here, and what she's hoping you'll do in honor of her dad in a moment. Tonight in Michigan, authorities investigating a horrific accident at a Stellantis plant in Dundee, about 50 miles outside Detroit. Police say a 62-year-old auto worker was killed after being pinned by a machine on the assembly line. The company tonight saying it is working with authorities during the investigation. When we come back here tonight, remembering the star who was Dennis the Menace, and then the remarkable video right here tonight, the never-before-seen home videos of Paul Newman and his daughter is right here with us tonight. To the Index, the star who was Dennis the Menace has died. Actor Jay North has died following a battle with colorectal cancer. Best known for his role as that TV troublemaker, friends say he had a heart as big as a mountain. Jay North was 73. The men's NCAA basketball championship, of course, is tonight. The battle of number one teams, the Florida Gators taking on Houston tonight. UConn winning the women's title last night, beating South Carolina, and 71-year-old head coach Gino Auriemma leading the team to a record 12th win. He says he has no problem with the players calling him Gramps. He says they're keeping him young. When we come back here tonight, never-before-seen videos of Paul Newman and his family and what his daughter is hoping many will do tonight. Finally tonight here, the never-before-seen videos of Paul Newman and his children, and tonight the one wish from his daughter. Tonight, the never-before-seen home videos of Oscar-winning actor Paul Newman. On his diving board, swimming with his children, his youngest daughter with actress Joanne Woodward, Clea, right there in his arms. Years later, Clea with him at the racetrack, cheering him on, drying his hair in the rain. And right here tonight,
Hi, David.
Clea Newman. Perhaps you can see the resemblance. Continuing the mission her father started for children in need.
My father, Paul Newman, founded our first camp in 1988. And there are now 30 camps and programs around the world.
It's called the Serious Fun Children's Network, a nonprofit network of free camps for seriously ill children and their families. And she shared with us her wish on what would have been her father's 100th birthday this year.
My wish is by his birthday, we will have served 2 million children living with serious illnesses.
In upstate New York, Lake Luzerne, the Double H Ranch for children.
Hi, David.
The Conley Haupt family, their daughter Tatum skiing with her instructor, big sister Porter right there learning too, and grateful.
The counselors here are amazing. We love to meet new people, and there are so many fun activities.
Hi, David. Hi, David.
The Adriazola family has been coming for 5 years. Their daughter Morgan is visually impaired. Her mother Missy.
This place is magical, and we look forward to coming back year and year and year again. Thanks, David. See you later. Bye-bye. Hi, David.
And Bodhi Batarai with his volunteer ski instructor, Mick.
It's fun and everything's adaptable.
We make everything work for every different kind of person, and there's no challenge too big or too small.
Tonight, the major fundraising effort right here in New York City, with the goal of adding 10,000 new volunteers to their camps. They say they're counting on Americans across this country to help with the next generation of children in need.
My hope for the future is that we serve 2 million more in 10 years. If there was one thing that he wanted to be known for, even more than his movies, our Serious Fun camps, to him, I think this was truly his legacy.
It was Paul Newman's dream, and our thanks to Clea tonight. If you'd like to help, you can go to seriousfund.org. I'm David Muir. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir America's most watched newscast.